Out of the gate, JT live from the Raiders Hotel in downtown Houston. As we get rolling, good to be back on the radio, Radio Nation Radio, the flagship of the Silver and Black. I'm broadcasting live also on the YouTube stream. I am in the Raiders tech department, man. I want to mention this as we open up the show, but we're on YouTube at JT the Brick, and we're also on all our other platforms. I was talking to the gentleman that built this data center here at the hotel that we're out in Houston, and an army of technicians came out here and set up firewalls and set up all the meeting rooms for the Raiders. And I'm telling you, it is so impressive. So the room that I'm in, this is the Silver and Black production room where they take all the video that you see, everything they're doing, the live streams, the coaches' press conferences, all of that. They're able to do that, and it is a lot of fun, and really pumped up to see how these men and women work behind the scenes. And that's something I want to share here in the monologue, as we are brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group. They are a part of Mendoza Monday. So I want to give them a little extra love. The DeCastroverde Law Group, proud partners of our show, proud partners of our training camp coverage. If it wasn't for Alex and Orlando DeCastroverde, I would not be doing this radio show in Houston. So thanks to them, the brothers win. brotherswin.com as we open up the show today. So let me get into that. Let me give you the behind the scenes of the Raiders before we get to practice yesterday and everything that's happening. And please tweet out and send out our YouTube stream and our Twitter stream as we're live on Twitter so other people can see this along the way. So what the Raiders do is they decide that they're going to get out of Las Vegas in the extreme heat, and they're going to come to Houston, which is arguably hotter. So I'm watching the news this morning in the hotel room, and they're saying that they're having a massive heat wave in Houston and a lot of humidity. So the Raiders practiced yesterday. They're off today. Today is an off day, but they have meetings. So they're meeting in these rooms, and it's just like, it doesn't look like they're in Vegas in their meeting rooms, which are gorgeous at the Intermountain Health World headquarters, but they set up everything identical. So they got screens and meeting rooms, the quarterbacks, the offensive line, the defensive line. And as I walk by these rooms, they have a giant room for treatment with the masseuses, everybody who wants to get work done on their ankles, their knees, their legs, their shoulders. They're all here. Bobby Romanski and his equipment team, the amount of laundry that they are doing. They basically moved the organization to Houston. And some people got ahead of the team, which got here on Monday. They got here on Saturday and Sunday. And then they set up this hotel, and it's just fantastic. And everything is 5-star. And it's great, and the players are comfortable. They get great food, 3 big meals a day. Whatever they need, it's right here. But their job is to play football. And yesterday was a hard padded practice, a really hard padded practice. And with that happening, you wonder what we're going to see in the game coming up tomorrow. We don't know what we're going to see because there was a massive injury to Houston yesterday. And I won't say it happened in front of me, but Jayden Higgins suffered a torn ACL yesterday during the joint practice. He is the number 2 wide receiver for the Houston Texans. He's really good. So I believe that Jayden Higgins, who got hurt yesterday, is better than any receiver on the Raiders today. And he's gone. He's gone for the year. He's that good. And they got Nico Collins, who's above him, and he's healthy. And now the Houston Texans, what do they need? Oh, my God, they need a wide receiver. They must go out and get another wide receiver now. Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, they're gone. They signed with other teams. Odell Beckham Jr. is fighting for his life to make the Giants 53. Odell Beckham Jr. would be perfect for Houston. Perfect. If the Giants cut him, I guarantee you he'll come here to Houston. He'd be a really good fit for the team because they need someone because of the injury yesterday. So what I believe that happened yesterday when he came off the field, I was with this big media scrum. Chris Long, the Howie Long's son, was there. We were all looking at this happen. Tom Brady, Mark Davis, everybody's looking on and concerned for this young man. But people were optimistic because he was walking and they thought maybe he'd be okay. He's not. Another camp casualty in the NFL. And when these camp casualties happen, it really affects your team. It really affects your team going forward because you got to go out and get another receiver. Now, the other big issue here is the quarterback position. because normally this time of year a quarterback goes down in camp. And Aiden O'Connell is not going to play here much. He's not. This is Fernando Mendoza's team going forward. Kirk Cousins is going to play as long as he wins. So normally this time of year you look for a good quarterback. If he goes down, then you start looking at second or third string quarterbacks, and teams want to get on the phone and make a deal. I think the Raiders want to keep Aiden O'Connell around here for a number of reasons. Say Kirk Cousins gets hurt, and we hope that doesn't happen. You have Fernando. He needs a backup. Kirk Cousins is hurt. You got to have Aiden O'Connell if you want to win games. So the Raiders having 3 quarterbacks here on the depth chart, I think, is really important. The other thing that I wanted to mention yesterday is I often talk about on this show and other shows about the misery index. For those who listen to me for 30 minutes or 30 years, you know, when you cover a football team, I cover all of sports, right? I like to cover all of sports. Baseball, the Dodgers, what's happening with their owner, Mark Walter, the NBA, the Knicks won the title. But when you cover a football team year-round and the football team isn't winning, a lot of the fans get frustrated. And a lot of fans really get frustrating, and they take it out on me, or they'll take it out on a writer, or they'll take it out on the players. And we don't want to see that happen in August. As a matter of fact, this is the first time in my career that I'm putting an end to that. You can call in on any topic you want. You could be upset about the depth chart. You might want a better player. But we are not going to dive in on this broadcast on the flagship of the Raiders in August and blank and moan about Jackson Powers Johnson needing a day off and not being ready, or where's Dante Thornton Jr., or Kirk Cousins threw a pick 6 at the end of practice. No, that's what drags down a fan base. We understand that there's a work in progress here. We understand that the team needs to get better. We also understand that the team needs better players, right? There's a whole bunch of things going on here. But we're in August, everybody, and I'm not doing it because I think this is a process here as the Raiders are building this team and trying to get it from 3 wins to 8 to 10 to 12 to Super Bowls, which is the overall plan, that everybody yesterday on all these social media sites were just picking and choosing who to believe or not. Do you believe Vinny? Do you believe me? Do you believe Levi? Do you believe Sam Warren? Whoever it is. All of us are doing who are here is reporting on practice. Right? Some guys watch every single play. Yesterday you couldn't watch every play because the Raiders' first-team defense, led by Max Crosby, was working out on one field, and the Raiders' first-team offense, led by Kirk Cousins and Fernando, who played a lot with the ones, were working out with another team. So unless you had a drone on your phone, you couldn't see every play. So people missed some stuff. But the reports are about injuries, about the depth of the team, who's playing with the ones, who's playing with the twos. And I think overall, Clint Kubiak, and we'll play a little bit of that later on in the show, he wanted to look at the tape yesterday. I haven't seen Coach today. And I think after he looked at the tape, he probably told the team they have to do a better job covering on the back end. They have to do a better job stopping the run at the point of attack. They have to do a better job pass protecting for Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins was frustrated at the end of practice that some Houston Texans were getting close to his elbow and close to his arm, and these guys are sick of it. I even saw our buddy Mad Max Crosby yesterday on a drill going up against C.J. Stroud, and he came around the corner, and C.J. Stroud got the ball out, and I think he threw a touchdown, and Max ran behind him on the backside and just patted him on the ass. C.J. Stroud didn't mind that. Patrick Mahomes would hate it. Kirk Cousins wouldn't like it. That's what Max does. Max likes to tease people. Max likes to tell you he's there, he's close. You know, other people act different ways. But after watching Houston play yesterday and waking up today, I was not aware of the significance of the injury to their number 2 wide receiver, Jayden Higgins. So when I got up this morning before this was announced, I tweeted out at JT the Brick that Buffalo opens the season here in Houston. Over the last 5 years, I picked Buffalo to win the Super Bowl twice. My Super Bowl preview show is coming up in early September before the start of the year. Every year I pick the Super Bowl winner before the start of the year. I've been okay with it. I picked the Peyton Manning year. I got the Russell Wilson year right when he won with Seattle. And I got one of the Tom Brady years right. I've been doing this a long time. It's hard to pick the winner of the Super Bowl. So this morning, before I knew about this injury and it was firm, I predicted Buffalo and Houston in the AFC Championship game. I think Buffalo is the best team in football moving into their new stadium. They played the Raiders this year. And I saw Houston up close yesterday, and I think Houston they definitely are better than Buffalo on defense. No debate. Houston's front and their defense and their secondary is better than Buffalo, Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Chargers suffered injuries again. I don't root for the Chargers getting injuries. I do not. But Houston has the number one defense in football, and I think the Buffalo Bills have the number one offense in the AFC. So if you told me, and I said it today, that the AFC Championship game would be Buffalo-Houston, I would stay with that, but major blow for the Houston Texans, as Ian Rappaport reports. Jayden Higgins suffered a torn ACL yesterday during the joint practice against the Raiders. A tough blow to the Houston receiving room. Now, the Raiders can't afford an injury like this. The Raiders don't have Jerry Rice and Tim Brown. They don't. They don't have Michael Crabtree. They don't have Amari Cooper when he came here in his prime. The Raiders don't. They have Trey Tucker, Jack Besh. But as I've often told you, the number one receiver for the Raiders is Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers yesterday, right in front of me, dropped the ball on a little out route, just dropped it, which I haven't seen him do. And then the next play, they went to him for a touchdown. In a touchdown up against Houston's number one defense. And Brock Bowers continues to impress. Work out because the offensive line wasn't good enough. The scheme wasn't good enough. It just didn't work out for Zamir White. I wish him well. This Mike Washington Jr. is different, okay? He is a beast, and he could be the guy. He's not going to overtake Ashton Genty as the number one running back, but he could be the guy on 1st and goal at the 2 or 3rd and goal at the 1 where you might line him up close to the line of scrimmage and have him run it in for a touchdown. He's that type of player. If he plays at a very high level along with Ashton Genty, Michael Mayer, and Brock Bowers, and one of these receivers turns out to be really good, the Raider offense led by Kirk Cousins and/or Fernando Mendoza are going to have a much easier time of moving the chains this year if Tyler Linderbaum can get that entire offensive line locked in. So I think the offensive line needs work. I think the defensive tackle position needs work. I'm not even touching the linebackers. I love the linebackers. Love them. I love Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. Love the guys. Let's hope and pray that they are healthy because they're not coming off the field. They're really good. They're captains. They're Georgia legends. They're really good players. And then the secondary, I don't know what to tell you. Eric Stokes is one of the starters. I think, as I talked about with Levi Edwards, you can pencil in Jeremy Chin as a starter. I'd like to see Traden Stukes go up against Isaiah Palomal. I think Isaiah has the lead over that. And then the other corner, opposite of Eric Stokes, is probably going to be Darian Porter, who looks the part, but he doesn't have any experience. And every team, if he's the opposite corner of Eric Stokes, is going to attack him all day long. And they better get a pass rush to help that young man, who's a former wide receiver turned cornerback, who's got some skills. He's got some skills. But he's going to have to be the player that really emerges here in the next couple of weeks. So I want to hear from you if you want to call in at 702-365-9200. If you're not here in Houston at practice, don't call me worrying and crying about a practice you didn't attend. Okay, that's very important because if I let everybody out of the barn saying this didn't happen, no, you weren't here. If you weren't here to see practice here, and you're going to criticize other people who are paid to see practice, and I'm not a journalist, I'm a radio host, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Okay, a lot of people here who are covering the team never played a down, never played a play in practice. They're just telling you where the ball was thrown, if it was deflected, caught, or intercepted. So I think everybody should be optimistic about the Raiders' work that they're getting in. And they're getting in a lot of work. I think it was a really smart move by Clint Kubiak to come to Houston. It's clearly his first travel trip. So, again, this is a new regime, brand new coaching staff, brand new players all over. And they were able to get on a plane, travel, get on the buses, the police escort, come to the hotel, have their meetings. That's a big part of developing a football team. That's why the Raiders are in Houston and they had that joint practice. But they didn't have a 2-day joint practice. And I don't know who's going to play on Thursday night. Your guess is as good as mine. But I think today Houston woke up and DeMeco Ryans, our head coach, was spooked. When he found out he lost his number 2 wide receiver, I believe that they're going to get C.J. Stroud out of that game quickly. I think a lot of their defensive starters are going to get out of that game quickly. And I think it's going to be a pure exhibition game. And the Raiders look good with their starters against Arizona. Kirk Cousins looked great. He was 5 of 6 with a touchdown. No interceptions. Fernando Mendoza came in, played well. Everybody said Fernando played well. He threw a touchdown. That was great. They got Linderbaum out of the game. Brock Bowers played 1 play. Max didn't play. So in the second half, or when the Raiders got carved up defensively, I think they got carved up because they played a vanilla defense. Robbie Leonard played a vanilla defense on purpose. We're all aware of that. And now we'll see what they do week 2. But I'm a big believer that this Raider defense needs work. Other than Max Crosby, who I personally wouldn't play a play in the preseason. Max doesn't need to play a play. He's fine. He looks great. Everybody else in that secondary needs more reps. They need more reps. There is no Mike Haynes or Lester Hayes on this team or Willie Brown. And the last I looked, Willie Brown played 6 preseason games every bleeping year of his life. Old man Willie never took a preseason game off. So if you're wondering if Darian Porter should play or Isaiah Palomal or Traden Stukes, keep them out there. They need rotational reps to develop a skill set and build some type of chemistry. You can only do so much in practice. So I think that's going to be real unique. Here's a soundbite, first off, from Fernando Mendoza, because he wanted to take some of – he was amazing at the podium yesterday. I mean, we're going to play some of that later on in the show. He was bleeping amazing at the podium, a little bit about some of the mistakes that he made yesterday.
Something that you have to learn, especially as a quarterback, but the next couple plays, we were able to have a 2-minute drive. We weren't able to capitalize, but I didn't feel any burden after that play. It was like, okay, cool, it happened, but now I got to focus on the next play, on the next present moment. It would be letting my teammates down if I let that burden me throughout the next couple series of plays, because then I wouldn't be able to play on time and they wouldn't be able to rely on me. But I think whether there's going to be negative plays, whether it's a negative play, whether it's one of the teammates, whether it's me, whatever it is, we all are able to bounce back from it and have a forward-thinking and optimistic mindset. Whether it's, hey, tranquilo, which means calm in Spanish, hey, tranquilo, and move forward. It's all good.
I really like, watching Fernando yesterday as we were around. There was only about 8 or 10 of us there at the podium. Not a lot of the media traveled out here, but it was the usual men and women who were here covering the team. And to stand there for Fernando Mendoza's podium session is mind-blowing. If you've been doing this as long as I have, or you've been a fan your whole life, you have never seen anything like this. The way the guy processes a question, it takes about 1/8 of a second for him to take the whole question and be polite, look the reporter in the eye, and then go on some deep dive like the movie Beautiful Mind. And you can see everything developing in his eyes as he talks. And this guy's going to be the face of this franchise, hopefully for 15 years. And he's just a kid. He's just a kid. And his podium sessions are some of the best I've ever seen. Incredible. So I was looking at some of the comments on my Instagram at JTTheBrickLV, and I go in there to look at some comments from time to time. And it was really nice to see so many Raider fans loving this guy, protecting him, and understanding he's one of us. Okay, sometimes there's a player on the team that's not one of us. As you know, I'm not a Davante Adams fan. I believe that Davante Adams quit on this team. I know that to be accurate because he forced his way out here to a better situation with the Rams. It doesn't mean Davante wasn't a good guy. It doesn't mean Davante wasn't sincere when he signed his contract and said, I wanted to play in front of my grandmother and I want to be a Raider. He couldn't have got out of here easier when the going got tough. Tim Brown stuck around for 17 different quarterbacks. Tim Brown could have raised his hand every day, get me out of here. Right? Randy Moss quit on this team. I was there. I watched him lay down on the bench. I saw it. Now we have Fernando Mendoza, who is going to go to a team that only won 3 games, is the savior in the face of the franchise going forward, and he is the type of guy that every Raider fan should really be behind 24/7, 365. Just get behind him because he's going to have some bad days. He's going to have some days that aren't good, and I haven't seen it yet. He had one practice where he admitted he didn't play well early in camp. He played well in the preseason game. He's going to get an opportunity to play tomorrow night here in Houston. Remember, that game is the Raiders' national television game of the year. And I also believe, for all Raider fans who are galvanized around this show, that you should be calling me today with utter, just vile upset because this is the Raiders' national game of the year. Are you bleeping kidding me? They're putting the Raiders on Thursday Night Football in the preseason. They didn't put us on national television in the regular season, which includes Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. They went out of their way with the number one pick overall, the Heisman Trophy winner and the national champion, not to put us on prime time, and they're doing it tomorrow night in what seems to be a preseason game where Houston might not play anybody because they lost their number 2 wide receiver. If that doesn't get you going as a Raider fan, I don't know what will. So invite everybody over for a barbecue tomorrow night. Bring them over to the house, order up some Grimaldi's pizza. Go get some Grimaldi's, go get some Modelo, go get some Aspen vodka, Fletcher Azul, all of our proud partners, some Remy Martin, and go have a party because this is your national game. That's the monologue, brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo, proud partner of the show. When we come back, Cole Thompson will join us here in a little bit. He's a local radio host here in Houston. I put him on all the shows I do. He's really good. And he came up to me yesterday, and it was great that we connect. First time I met him, but he's been on the show a lot. He'll have strong opinions on the Houston Texans, who I believe are an elite team, or were an elite team until yesterday. We'll talk about their injury and how they approach this game against the Silver and Black.
You see in practice. So very few guys just rise to the occasion and become gamers that just show it to you in practice first. So Mike has done it in practice, he's done it in the game, and we just got to keep challenging him and putting more on his shoulders.
Welcome back, everybody. That was Clint Kubiak talking about Mike Washington. My coverage live from Houston at Raiders training camp at their dual workouts with the Houston Texans is brought to you by Aspen Vodka, proud partner of the show, the official vodka of my New York Yankees. How about that, as we're getting here ready for September and October where the Yankees make their legacy, and now the official vodka of the Silver and Black. What a partnership with us, the Raiders. We welcome Aspen Vodka to Raider Nation Radio. Really excited to have them there with us and the brand and the lifestyle. And you're going to be seeing signage for Aspen Vodka all over Allegiant Stadium. And there'll be multiple cocktail opportunities for you once you get to Allegiant Stadium. Ask for Aspen Vodka, proud partner of the Raiders and our show. Kirk Morrison coming up here in a little bit. We'll try to get Matt Millen on the phone a little bit if we can pull that off. And we'll have that lined up as Matt Millen is on his way here. So we got a good show lined up today, and Cole Thompson is going to join us momentarily, and we're going to check in with him. Let me get Joe from Brooklyn up. Joe, I'm in Houston. You're in Brooklyn. What's going on, man? Thanks for calling in.
Baby? What's up? Thanks, JT. Thanks for everything. Yep. Great show. Listen, a few things. I think as Raider fans, we all want to win. We all want Fernando to do good. But we have to temper our expectations. This is a 3-win team, okay? Let this kid, he's just going to learn. He's going to struggle. And I'm okay with it. I'm tired of getting blown out. I want to be competitive, and I want to be in every single game. That's not allowed to, whether we win or lose, whatever. But can we be competitive? I'm tired of seeing the 30-3 games, you know.
He hung up on himself. Sorry to hear that. So, sorry, Joe, if that was on us. We apologize. Appreciate the call. I think what you were saying is you don't want to see blowouts. You want to see competitive games. And I would agree with that. And I am sick and tired of that also. I want to see more competitive games. The two games that jump out at me last season, I want to make this clear. The two games that pissed me off more than I've ever been pissed off with the Raiders was last year against Daniel Jones and Marcus Mariota. Let me repeat that. Marcus Mariota, Jayden Daniels was out. The Raiders went into the nation's capital and got smoked. and Marcus Mariota ran all over the Raiders. And that to me was a moment. And then the only moment that was worse than that was when Daniel Jones had on a baseball cap in the third quarter. I think it was the third quarter. Someone check. It was either the third or beginning of the fourth quarter. And they showed a shot of Daniel Jones on the sideline laughing wearing a Colts hat on. And I was so upset at the Raiders headquarters because I follow the Giants, the team of my youth. I support the Raiders more than the Giants. You know it. I just said it. And when I saw Daniel Jones laughing on the sidelines as they were blowing out the Raiders, that really troubled me because I knew how bad Daniel Jones was his entire career. I know how bad he was his entire career. And I was furious by that. So Joe was right. There's going to be no more blowouts at all. There's going to be no more, we're being laughed at on the sideline because it's the third quarter and the Raiders are trailing by 24. That's not going to happen. Cole Thompson, kind enough to join us. All the work he does in the SEC. He's got a successful podcast. He's an up-and-coming radio host. And, Cole, it was good to see you at practice yesterday, but a lot of us woke up to the news today of a significant injury for the Texans. Jayden Higgins suffered a torn ACL. Tell me how big of a loss that is for the Texans.
Yeah, JT, it was wonderful to meet you in person finally, but it was also the last time that we will see Jayden Higgins in 2026. It's massive. It's beyond massive because the Texans' wide receiver room was already a weak point going into the year, knowing the status of Tank Dell and his recovery time, not to mention fellow Iowa State wide receiver and third-round pick last year, Jalen Knoll, started off the year on the PUP list with a finger injury, and recently he has been dealing with hamstring tightness. He is not expected to be back at least until, we would say, probably week 1, and that's if everything goes according to plan. So a weak point gets even weaker because of Higgins not only was one of the emerging talents for the Texans going into 2026, he was the star of the preseason. If you go and ask any Texans reporter who has stood out the most and looked like they have blossomed into a really stellar player, 99.9% of reporters would say it was Jayden Higgins. He looked so crisp with his route running. He was building a good rapport with C.J. Stroud opposite of Nico Collins. He was really physical in the run blocking aspect of things, which is a major necessary tool that you need for a Nick Caley offense to be functional. And he was doing a lot of the right things to feel like that. There was conversations of knowing Nico Collins is going to be up for a contract in a year or two, and he's definitely going to want to get paid. The Texans could feel confident of moving off of him because if they believe Higgins could be that guy. And to lose him this early in a joint practice, doesn't play in the first preseason game, probably was going to play in tomorrow's game against Las Vegas. It's a big blow, and the Texans right now are trying to find out what is the next course that they can move to via trade, via free agency, to get themselves a guy that can be a complementary piece to Nico Collins. Because for the last few years, it has been the tight end position, and when your tight end is serving up as your number 2 receiver, you're in a world of hurt for a win-now opportunity.
Yeah, Cole, I think it's a big loss because when I was talking to you yesterday and I saw Tom Brady and Andre Johnson and I'm seeing the Texans fans, great crowd yesterday. Obviously, the Raiders are the team trying to come up and coming to go up against the Houston team. I was thinking Houston-Buffalo AFC Championship game, and I'm going to stay on that route. I'm not going to say the Houston Texans season's done because their number 2 wide receiver's gone, but that defense is legit. And I was focusing, when I was standing with you, mostly on the secondary of the Houston Texans. We know how good their front is. They're the best front maybe in all of football. If you can educate me on their linebackers, how legit they are, but their secondary, their corners, they have ball hawks. They have guys who are familiar, who can make plays, turn the ball over, and shorten the field for C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, this is one of the best, if not the best, secondary in the NFL, JT. And they were there last season. They ranked number 2 in takeaways, only behind the Chicago Bears. But the major question they had was a rotating safety opposite of Kalen Bullock. So they started off the year with E.J. Gardner-Johnson. There was a lot of discourse that this was not a good fit from the start of training camp, but it really carried on into the season. He gets released 3 games in. They get M.J. Stewart. He suffers a torn quad and misses over the last 2 months of the season. They have Jalen Reed, the rookie out of Penn State. He ends up suffering a broken forearm and goes on the IR. They bring in DeAndre Carter-Houston and a few other names. We're talking 34-year-olds just to fill a gap. And yet still, they were one of, if not the best secondary in the NFL, certainly in the AFC, largely because of the supporting cast. I mean, we talk about what Jalen Petrie can do in the nickel, Kalen Bullock, a ball-ranging safety on the back end, and Kamari Lassiter, who in my opinion is already a bona fide top 10 corner, that is playing the number 2 role opposite of arguably the second-best cornerback in the NFL, and Derek Stingley Jr. Well, this offseason they go and they add in Reed Blankenship from the Philadelphia Eagles, who is a nice counterpart of the weaknesses that Kalen Bullock has in his game. So Blankenship is a reliable tackler. He's not afraid to go ahead and play near the line of scrimmage. He can force some interceptions, but he's more so known for his pass breakups. So a secondary that already was giving up less than 200 yards per game last year just got stronger by adding in another piece, and everyone is a year older. Now, the linebacker play is so interesting because the Texans are trying to figure out who is their third linebacker, because they know who the top 2 guys are. Henry To'oTo'o, that just got a contract extension for 2 years last week, he has been more so known as your space guy. This is somebody that is not afraid to play against some tight ends, slot receivers, running backs out of the backfield. He is known as the guy that you want playing in the middle of the field. Then you have Azeez Al-Shaair, who really broke on out into an all-pro caliber linebacker for the first time last season. But he has been really good with the little things, like open field tackling, pursuit angles, ability to have delayed blitzes. He does a lot of things at a high-end level, and he's done so in a DeMeco Ryans defense from his time in San Francisco. Really kind of took that next step forward last season. Did not miss many active shots in the open field. I think he had a 2% missed tackle rate. So the back 7 of the Texans defense is so strong that people kind of forget about the front 7 that already features an all-pro defensive Will Anderson Jr., a Pro Bowl, and honestly, in my opinion, the most underrated player in the NFL over the last 10 years, Danielle Hunter. He's one of 7 guys with over 100 career sacks, does not get the respect he deserves. But they got better in the trenches this offseason because they got Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle All-American from Ohio State, who was phenomenal in run support last season underneath Matt Patricia in Columbus. And they brought in Jadeveon Clowney, who was going to be used as a situational pass rusher coming off of 8.5 sacks last season. The Texans do a really nice job of intermingling splitzes as well. So there'll be some times where you will see a combination of Jadeveon Clowney, Danielle Hunter, and Will Anderson Jr. all on the front line. And they'll send one guy on a delayed blitz, because what they'll do is they'll send a blitz from Jalen Petrie or Azeez Al-Shaair up the middle that creates havoc at the back of the end. I mean, it creates havoc in the back and my apologies, the backfield, for there to be chaos where a quarterback is going to be making fundamentally terrible mistakes. So this is a team that has an identity. This is a team that knows how to play in all 3 stages. They have an all-pro at every single level. It's going to be really hard to beat Houston this season simply because of their defense. And they may be winning games 10-7. But, JT, they're winning games. Yeah. As long as you win games, you stand a chance of being the first team in the playoff.
Cole Thompson is our guest as we wrap it up. All right, you're really good. Listen to this guy, man. He just is like a computer. He gives you everything. Now I'm going to ask the tough one about the Raiders. You know the Raiders are coming off 3 wins, but you saw Fernando, I would assume, for the first time you saw him in an NFL uniform, in an NFL space like that, and it's like Ohtani at batting practice. I saw Houston fans going crazy because they're getting a chance to see Fernando Mendoza, who's a generational superstar as a national champ and Heisman Trophy winner. He wasn't perfect yesterday, but you saw his size and his strength and what the Raiders have with Bowers and Gentry. They brought in Tyler Linderbaum. Do the Raiders look like a really big work in progress, or do you think they're on the right path and maybe this takes 2 to 3 years when we could talk about the Raiders right there with the talent level of the Houston Texans?
Well, for starters, JT, I love the hire of Clint Kubiak. I thought that was the right move from the get-go. Go get yourself an offensive-minded guy who knows how to utilize not just the running back position, which is really important, but the tight end position. Because a lot of people, I think, outside of the NFL that only pay attention to their teams don't realize that Michael Mayer still is on this roster. And I love Michael Mayer. I thought Michael Mayer was a phenomenal tight end at Notre Dame, and I think that there'll be a scheme fit for him to kind of get rotated on in. So you made the right hire with Clint Kubiak. you made some really smart moves. I think that bringing in Quay Walker and getting Kobe Dean at linebacker really does a nice job of setting your second level of the defense. The re-signing of Eric Stokes, I thought, was a very underrated move. They did a good job of bringing in guys that I think can be foundations for this new future. And there are some young players that we've mentioned, Fernando Mendoza being one of them, that you have a lot of faith in to hopefully turn the corner. Two guys that I absolutely love in their time in the SEC. Number one is Mike Washington. I thought Mike Washington was such a nice find to bring alongside Ashton Genty. And you and I were talking about it yesterday. There's a role for Genty, but there also can be a role for a guy like Mike Washington to make sure that you're not treading the tires on a Genty and make him as valuable as you can in the passing game. So I really think that he is going to have a breakout year. A guy that I'm really intrigued to see what he looks like in this offense is Jack Besh. I thought that he was an underrated wide receiver pick last season when they brought in Pete Carroll. Again, we know how that season went. Let's see what he looks like in year two. But the other name is going to be Jamad McCoy. Jamad McCoy, from a talent perspective, I know that he's right now still in the PUP list and everything else with that. But from a talent perspective, I thought that he was the number one cornerback in the draft. I think that every intangible that you look for in terms of radius, footwork, downfield, open field tackling, pass breakups, fluidity when it comes to hit placement, all of that is there. And to get him as a steal on day 3 to start off the draft, I thought was massive. So there are really good foundational pieces in play. I think Fernando Mendoza is going to have a good season. I won't say he's going to have an Offensive Rookie of the Year season, but he will be a name that will definitely, I think, provide stableness for an organization that has been looking for that really since the days before you had John Gruden back for a second time. So I'm bullish on them. I think that they'll be probably about a 5-win team this year, but they'll be a 5-win team that shows promise and potential that probably is going to entice a lot of free agents to want to go there. And as you continue to build through the draft, getting a number one wide receiver, getting a little bit more depth on your defensive line, adding in maybe another offensive lineman or two, there is at least a belief that this could be a team that turns the corner in what I think is going to be a topsy-turvy AFC West come about 2028.
Wow, Cole Thompson, great job as always. Unbelievable in-depth analysis here. So here's the last one. My son went to Oklahoma. We're talking Baker Mayfield. We're talking Kyler Murray. Proud of my son. And my other son went to ASU, but I want to keep it here with Oklahoma. He gives me so much heat that I am fascinated with Arch Manning. I am fascinated with Arch Manning because I don't care what Arch does in college. Let me repeat, I don't care. No one remembers a throw that Eli made at Ole Miss, especially in New York. No Ole Miss games were on in New York City, Long Island, or New Jersey. And he won 2 Super Bowls through Tom Brady. Peyton Manning did not win the Heisman Trophy, lost to my friend Charles Woodson, and couldn't beat Florida. He turned out to be top Mount Rushmore quarterback of all time. What does Arch Manning need to do to just navigate through a potential Heisman Trophy season? I'm not saying he's going to go undefeated. The schedule's brutal. So he's easily the number 1 pick overall. I got 2 minutes. Tell me.
Okay, so number one, he is the number 1 pick right now because of name. I do think that he did improve dramatically last season. You go from that Mississippi State game on, every single matchup, it felt like Arch was the quarterback that we envisioned at the start of the year, which was an unjust feeling for anybody because of why do you have that pressure. Arch is going into year 3 of the same offensive personnel, and he's got a great supporting cast around him. You are looking for the minute details. There was, at the beginning of the season, it felt like there was an unworthy trust factor of him trying to find targets downfield. He'd be a little late on his throws, which would lead to underthrown passes or the big interceptions like in the Ohio State game. I think that right now when you add in a guy like Cam Coleman on the outside, a 6'2" playmaker that is just known for his catch radius and turning 50-50 balls into 90-10 in his favor, that is going to be a major benefactor for him. I think the other thing that you have to realize is his decision-making. The thing that worried me the most last year is there were times that he would go ahead and try to wait for a play to unfold rather than just tuck it and run. This is a hyper athlete. I mean, there are people out there that just watch him play, and he looks like a gazelle running the Serengeti being chased by a cheetah, which may be what you're looking at this season if Texas' offensive line doesn't hold on up. But at times, you just got to know when to tuck and run, pick up those first down yardage, and hit reset. If he can do that, Texas has a team good enough on offense and defense. While their schedule is the toughest in college football, and I will stand on that take, nobody can argue with it with who they have on the radar. Texas is good enough to be a college football national championship roster. And when you are the quarterback of the national championship roster, usually the offense is a big-time reason why. I think Arch could be a guy that throws for 4,000 yards. I expect him to throw for 3,000, rush for at least another 800. I think he's going to be a 35 to 40 touchdown guy, and he has a very good opportunity to be in a Big Apple. I do not have him winning the Heisman, but I do think that he will be in the Heisman Trophy presentation and will be a top 3 pick in next year's draft.
Okay, that's nice. I think that'd be great if he was at the Heisman Trophy presentation and was in consideration there. Keep grinding, my friend. You got a great career going and a big one in front of you. Keep knocking down doors, doing what you do best, and I'll be talking to you throughout the year on our national show.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Dave. See you talking for college football season.
You got it. There he is, Cole Thompson. Very good guy. And I just want to share that for young broadcasters, young guys. So I'm talking to him yesterday on the sideline, and he had a local radio show, and the radio company that he works for, some of them, let him go. And I said, oh, my God, you're great. What do you mean? And he goes, well, I got this podcast, I got this other one, SEC, Unfiltered, all that. I'm like, relax. You're going to get hired. You're going to be a big radio star. I don't say that often to people. There's not many people I say, man, I heard your tape or I heard you on the show. I'm pretty good at this, knowing who's going to make it or not. And we're in an era now where you got like a big star and 17 people interrupting him on one show. You know, that's not how you get into radio. You get into radio because you're like that young man who's just at practice, grinding, doing podcasts. He knows the Texans, inside out. And he knows the SEC inside out. There's not many people walking planet Earth who can do what he just did, breaking down the Houston Texans and the SEC. Matt Millen's here. He's going to call in. I said, wait, man, let's do a stream or something. Matt's got family in town here in Houston. So one of the greatest of all time, 4-time Super Bowl champ, Matt Millen, into Kirk Morrison. How about that? We got Matt Millen and Kirk Morrison, 2 acclaimed Raiders linebackers, going to join us, and we're thrilled about that. Hey, everybody, Boyd Gaming. The other night I went to Gold Coast to see an unbelievable movie. I couldn't believe it. I saw The Odyssey. I'm walking through the Gold Coast, and I'm saying to myself, Boyd Gaming, and the Sun Coast with one of the greatest movie theaters I've been to. So I went to the Gold Coast for dinner. I went to the Sun Coast for the movies, all part of Boyd Gaming, the local casino partner of the Silver and Black.
The first team to play on Thursday. We'll see.
JT back with you as we continue on. You know, we're brought to you by the M Resort, Spa and Casino. The other day I went to the M to meet Fred Biletnikoff. Yeah, I'm name dropping. Freddie Biletnikoff. It's like a second dad to me. We went to the Raiders Tavern. I had a Modelo. Then we walked over to the lounge. I had a cigar. Oh, my God, the M Resort. What a great place to relax. Fine dining. Emerald opened up a new restaurant there. 2 towers are better than one. The M Resort, Spa and Casino. Great to be back here on Raider Nation Radio as I am live from the Raiders industrial data center that they built here. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm showing some people on video here. I'm in I'm off the lobby in some tech room. The Raiders sent all of these tech geeks to come here and build out all the Raiders audio, video, everything they're doing for practice. It's pretty incredible how the NFL moves and how the NFL is able to move and dart around and do what they do. It is incredible the amount of money here. There's a lot of other news I want to get to next hour, but we're loaded. Matt Millen will join us right here at the top of the hour. 4-time Super Bowl champ. I think one of the greatest broadcasters of all time. I repeat, of all time in sports. He backed up John Madden. Okay, John Madden, the king. Matt Millen right there with him. Matt Millen into our new segment, The Brick and the Backer. Kirk Morrison. We're going to announce that on this show coming up here in a little bit. And then there's a big fantasy football event coming up here in Vegas that I can't wait to tell you about. And it's coming up right around the corner. Raider Nation, deep in Vegas. It's the Draft Nation Fantasy Football Weekend. And there's a lot of Raider fans coming out for this, so I'm going to give them a plug and a promotion. They've invited me out to Circa to give me an award, a Megaphone Broadcasting Award on Saturday. Might be able to do that because we're still in Houston until late Thursday landing on Friday. This hour of the show brought to you by Fletcher Azul Tequila. Oh, my God. Mark Wahlberg, the brand, the taste, how smooth it is. Now my wife makes officially the greatest margarita in all of Summerlin. You just got to come over to my house, Backyard Brick, and have a Fletcher Azul Tequila. She'll make it salt or without salt, shaken. It's fabulous. Fletcher Azul Tequila, proud partner of our show. All right, everybody, hour number 2 as I am in the bowels of the JW Marriott in the Tech Center of Silver and Black Productions, and one of the most important members of our team at Silver and Black Productions is in town to call the game and also see his family, the 4-time Super Bowl champ and my partner during the broadcast season, Matt Millen. Matt, welcome to Houston. I know you got some family here. Tell me about Houston and how long you've been coming to this city and some memories.
I've been coming down here, for a long time. Obviously, when we were playing with Earl Campbell, those were days that you didn't look forward to because that was a guaranteed headache. But we always won down here. Houston's been good to me. My daughter and her husband live here now, and my other daughter's also over in Tyler, Texas, which is a couple hours from here. So we got my sons are in Pennsylvania, and my daughters are in Texas. So that's what I got.
All right, Matt, I want to talk to you about your career as a practice player. I know about the big games, the big moments. We've talked about that throughout your career, but now there's these joint practices. They call them dual practices. They're more important in the game. You played all of those preseason games on top of those two-a-days and pads. What was your mindset when you took to the field to practice against your teammates who turned out to be Hall of Famers and some of the greatest players in the game?
Yeah, well, see, that was the advantage that we had. I'm going against Uppy and Art, and there were so many guys, Dave Casper, and so for me it was if I can perform well against these guys, I'm not going to have any other problems because Gene was one of my favorite guys. Gene Upshaw was, and same with Art. And for whatever reason, from the first day of training camp that I walked in my rookie year, they took me under their wing, and they just treated me like I was, one of their kids. And I had a blast with them. And so what I ended up doing was, like I just said, if I could play well against those guys, then I would do well against anybody. And Gene could play all the games. So he'd play the mind game with you. He'd make you split wider than you needed to. He'd start messing with your head all the time. He could be physical with you if he had to. He could be always very athletic because he could run. And so once you started going against Gene, so practice for me was like, hey, I'm going against the best in the league. So practice for me, if Gene wanted to practice, let's put it that way, if he wanted to go, it was a really great learning experience for me. He taught me a lot.
Matt Millen's our guest. What about Mr. Davis, Tom Flores, John Madden? Because now every time someone gets hurt, as you know, Jay Glazer or Adam Schefter, this guy tears his ACL, he's gone for the year. And they're not practicing in pads. They're not practicing at the level that you did. They're making a lot more money in this era than you did back in the day. How did Mr. Davis come to grips with you guys practicing so hard, being a Super Bowl champion team or contender?
The weird thing was we just did it. That's what everybody did. Everybody practiced hard. I wasn't the only one. So we had guys who that was just how you did it. Now, we didn't, we'd get into fights. There would be a bunch of fights every now and then, but, that was kind of blown off. But the part that wasn't blown off was, you have to give me a good look in practice. And we had, and our guys, like I'm talking, there's Uppy. Gene's he's a Hall of Fame player. Art's a Hall of Fame player. And they're going out and they're servicing against our first team defense. And, they have to give you a good look because we're going to see this in the game. This is our pregame game. And so it was just different. We didn't go full out against, those guys. But the first three steps were, you got to get your reads. And I'll tell you what, Gene and Art, Mickey Marvin, Dave Dalby, all the Henry Lawrence, all those guys, they give you good looks because they understood what it was about. Now, they didn't always like it, and sometimes, we get into fights and, you'd break them up, but, that was just part of it. So, anyway, I just think that those guys understood what it took, and they gave you the good look, and then you reciprocated.
Matt Millen joins us. Matt, I never asked you this in all the years I've known you. Where did you learn how to fight? Because you told me about your youth and your dad and going on these recruiting trips with Joe Paterno and Bo Schembechler, and then you came into the league, and if you got into a little bit of a brawl or a little bit of fight and you put your hands on people, where did that come from? From your youth, or did you pick that up in college, or when you came to the pros, you were just fighting for your life to get on the field? What's the backstory of that?
Well, it was kind of weird. We grew up. I'm half Irish and half Czechoslovakian, so the Irish side is my dad's side, and so we grew up with boxing. That's what we grew up with. We grew up with, they put the gloves on you, and we had a bunch of kids in our neighborhood, and they just put the gloves on you and said, "Go ahead, see what you got." And so I was fighting kids older than me because I was beating up the kids who were my age. And so you just learn how to fight. And my dad would show us some stuff, and my uncles would show me some stuff. And pretty soon you're very comfortable with it. Now, when I look back on it, for football, it helped me. But for outside of football, it's not a good thing because you want to, the guy blows his horn at you like, I'm going to go and punch this guy's freaking lights out. Not good.
Wrapping it up with Matt.
I got to tell you though, JT, I benefited from that, from using your hands. That was good for me.
Absolutely. Last one, because I want you to spend some great time with your family. I've loved asking you the question, and you shared it with me at our media dinner with Rich Gannon. Your Mount Rushmore of broadcasting partners, when you look back at Jack Buck, Vince Scully, Pat Summerall, everybody, Dick Stockton, that you talked a lot about. When you come in to call these games for the Raiders at Silver and Black Productions, you take it seriously, but you're having more fun in this stage of your career. When you look back at all those years on the road, all the relationships with the producers, the directors, the guys in the trucks, the ladies out there helping you get set up, everybody behind the scenes, that's got to be some of the greatest partnerships and relationships you've ever had in your professional life. Is that fair?
100% true. 100%. Yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, it's funny. I was just talking about Coach Madden with my wife this afternoon, and I was just telling her how much I miss John. I mean, John was a wealth of knowledge. He was hilarious to be with. My daughter remembers when he'd come to our house with the bus, and how he'd let the kids run all over the place, and go in and out of the bus and up and down, and it was just, he was great. He was a great mentor for me, and he taught me so many things. It's just ridiculous. I just miss him a lot, and I had a blast with him, and Pat Summerall as well. I mean, Pat was one of those guys, didn't say very much, and he'd be like 2nd and 5, and then he'd let you go, and that was great. I can't complain a bit. I'm very happy with all the stuff that I've been able to partner with in my broadcasting career.
Thanks, Matt. I'll see you in a little bit. Enjoy your family today. Can't wait to see you.
You got you. Take care, JT.
You got it. Matt Millen. I can tell y'all, if you're listening, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that man, Matt Millen, because everybody knows he won 4 Super Bowls. He was a GM in Detroit. It did not go well in Detroit as a GM, but he was able to get back into broadcasting, and he's so knowledgeable. And every time I'm around him, which isn't often, it's always this time of year when we get to do the broadcast together. When you walk into a press box with Matt Millen, everybody comes up to him. I'm talking everybody. The guys in the radio room, the truck, they're hugging him because he was second to John Madden. And John Madden is the greatest analyst in the history of sports, definitely in the history of the NFL. And Matt Millen was his successor. Let's remember, because you got to remember, Madden left, right? When he went to Fox, left CBS, when he went to NBC and all that. And Matt Millen, I really believe, pound per pound, is one of the greatest sports broadcasting analysts of all time. We're looking at this new world of Tony Romo, where Tony Romo looks like he's going to lose his job. Tony Romo's going to lose his job. And they're saying Greg Olson can take his spot. Okay, Greg Olson's very good. Tom Brady never broadcast, and he went to the number one team on Fox. Got a little bit of criticism year one, and then he was really good last year. And Tom Brady now is making over $300 million to be a broadcaster. What would Matt Millen be making today with 4 Super Bowls, with how good he is if he got into broadcasting today? Because he still broadcasts. He does college football. But would you be talking? Tony Romo's making $18 million a year. He was nowhere near as Matt Millen. And I thought that Romo was pretty good. I think Romo's okay. I don't have a problem with Romo. But I just remember how great Matt Millen was and how many big spots he was in. It is an honor to talk and work with him. When I get a chance to call these games, and I'm not calling this game tomorrow night because this game's on national television. So Jason Horowitz, who does the television, is back in our radio booth, and he'll be there with Matt Millen, and he'll be there with Rich Gannon. Eric Allen and I sit this one out. And then when we're back next week, I'll get the final call on radio for the Niners Alumni Weekend, where I'll be back in the booth with Hall of Famer Eric Allen and one of the all-time greats right there, Matt Millen. So that's where we're at right now. If you want to get through, 702-365-9200. And we are thrilled to be here today because we have so many people to thank when it comes to our coverage of being live here in Houston. That is a really big deal. Flowing Tide Pub, Danny and the crew there, thank you so much. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. They're our proud partner. They're our partner on the road in Houston. So if you want great food, an unbelievable experience, if you're into gaming, you want to watch sports, you love college football, Danny played college football at a high level, Flowing Tide, proud partner of our show, all of their unbelievable drinks that they have on the menu and all their great food. They are a proud partner of our show, and we are happy that they're with us as our partner here in Houston. When we come back, the debut of the Brick and the Backer, Kirk Morrison, who we'll be talking to from time to time throughout the season, will join us next. We'll talk to him, and at the bottom of the hour, you fantasy football fans, I got a hookup for you. We got a great fantasy football analyst coming on the show coming up next. So let's get out, come back with Kirk Morrison. We'll do that coming up, and then we'll go straight through to the top of the hour. Q Myers is also here in Houston, and he's going to join us right after the show. He's going to come on right after here, and I'm sure he's got a big show as he's doing a couple of shows right here. So when we come back, Kirk Morrison will join us as we are live from Houston, the Raiders Team Hotel, as we continue on the flagship of the Silver and Black. This is Raider Nation Radio.
They run it again with Genty, patient behind the line. Bounces out to the left at the 40, into the secondary 30. Nobody's going to catch it. Down the middle of the field, Genty at the 5. Touchdown, Raiders. Deuces, goodbye for the second time in the ballgame. This one from 51 yards. And with 5:24 to go, the Raiders on the back of the 6th overall pick. Not done yet.
That's Jason Horowitz on the call, the voice of the Raiders. He's here also in the building. Kirk Morrison is good to go, and we're proud to announce our new feature this year, the Brick and the Backer. One of my favorite linebackers in Raider history, one of the best analysts in all of college and pro football, Kirk Morrison, kind enough to join us, and I'm excited to talk football with you every week here, man. You got a lot of opinions. You're going to fit in good here.
Oh, man, I learned from the best, right, from you, JT. So always excited to be with you, man, even here in Houston, man. It's been fun times thinking about when I first came here on my trip back in 2005, my rookie year, and we had this same joint practice against the Houston Texans before preseason game number 2. And when I first really started to get my feet wet in the National Football League. So a lot of memories being here this week.
Dip the show in reality about the good and the bad yesterday, because the ugly did not happen for the Raiders. The ugly happened for the Houston Texans, who lost a premier player as Jayden Higgins is gone for the year. So the Raiders, knock on wood, are healthy so far. They got to get out of this game healthy, but Houston's a really good test. What did you see that was positive for the Raiders and something that you think has to be fixed pretty quickly here?
I think positive was that you saw the Raiders able to compete at such a high level that you saw them have some success against one of the best defenses in the National Football League. I love what Kirk Cousins did overall when I watched him at practice. I love some of the things that Fernando Mendoza did as well. I think this offensive line is really, why I'm even here. People said, what do you expect from the joint practice? I said, because I want to see what the offensive line looks like. And look, they were down JPJ during that joint practice. So Caleb Rogers, guess what? You step up. He goes into the right guard spot next to Glaze, next to Tyler Linderbaum and Burford, along with Colton Miller. They got a chance to look at the best defensive front. Sheldon Rankins, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. That was the thing that I was excited to see, is that there are some things to take away from the tape to get better at, but by no way did I feel that they were dominated or couldn't handle it. They did what they needed and gave Kirk Cousins the time to get the ball off into different drills that they had to Brock Bowers, who's just still been unguardable. So that tells me another positive, JT. He's not just unguardable when it comes to the Las Vegas training camp. He's also unguardable here in Houston. Those are just the main positives I took offensively. Now, if you want me to switch to defense, that's still a story that's still kind of working itself out, as this defense is really, so far, has looked good in certain areas, but then there's other areas that have really, started to not necessarily be a concern, but you definitely, get some anxious moments right now as we get closer to the season starting.
Kirk Morrison joins us. I think that's really good, and that's a fair analysis. So as a middle linebacker, when you were feeding off the defensive tackles in front of you, and you played with some really good ones here, now there's Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, and it feels like they're going to play a lot more nickel and dime. Teron Johnson, I think they need to keep him on the field at slot corner. They can move him to safety, but what concerns do you have with teams that just want to smash ball it and run it up the middle here, man? There's no Warren Sapp here. There's no Aaron Donald. So those linebackers are going to have to fill and tackle if these defensive tackles are developing like Tonka Hemingway. So with Robbie Leonard and what he wants to do and what he's told us before these games, and when you talk to him at the stadium, what do they got to do to clean that up so they can stop the run, especially the run right up the middle?
Well, they got to be able to be some big-time two-gappers, and I don't know if that's necessarily who they are, but they got to be able to utilize their hands, get extension. That should be the name of the preseason going forward. Every preseason game is all about extension, meaning that can you get your hands on an offensive lineman and extend and be able to get off the blocks. That's something I haven't seen enough of from the last preseason game, and then even in this joint practice session with the Houston Texans. Look, you mentioned it, JT. Just you talking about it right now, it kind of gave me some goosebumps, because I came into the National Football League in 2005, and I had a mountain of a man in front of me by the name of Ted Washington, who no matter what, JT, was going to take up two. He was going to take up two guys from me, and it allowed a young Kirk Morrison to go run free. You mentioned Warren Sapp, one of the greatest three techniques in the game. His ability to hold a double team. I know what he could do in rushing a passer, but I thought he was great at hold up a double team and didn't get enough credit for what he did with that. A young Tommy Kelly, Derek Burgess, that was a defensive front that I had in my first couple of years, and I learned from them. But their ability to absorb blockers and allow the linebackers to go run free, we haven't seen that yet with this Raiders front, and a lot of it was going to have to be Adam Butler, Tonka Hemingway, Jonah Laulu, Thomas Booker. Guys are going to have to be able to get off, extend, and force the double teams on themselves and absorb them. Right now, they're absorbing the double team, but they're allowing the offensive lineman to get up to the second level. You should never be able to do that, and that's one thing right now. You cannot choose a side, JT. So we have something to look at, right, when it comes to this preseason game, is this defensive front and how they're going to be able to stop the run. They'll be fine in the pass game. Eric Stokes, Polo Mao, Jeremy Chin, You mentioned Taron Johnson. I love Massive and, the young players that we got at corner, Jermai McCoy. They'll be better this week. But it's all about stopping the run, and I want to see guys play with more extension and get off blocks.
Wrapping it up with Kirk Morrison, live from the Raiders team hotel here in Houston. I loved you directing traffic yesterday at the podium. It's like, let's go. Hey, get your questions ready. We got to get other people there. Yeah, Clint Kubiak, Nakobe Dean. But what I wanted to ask you as a broadcaster and as you're calling this game is that, wow, Fernando Mendoza, have you seen anything like it? You're still relatively a young broadcaster. You've done a lot of podium sessions. You did it as a player and as a broadcaster watching. Kirk, I'm just blown away by it. I've never seen anything like it. It's so cerebral. He's so deep. He waits. He's respectful for everyone. He looks the questioner in the eye, and he looks like he's talking one-on-one to the person who asked him the question with so much class and dignity. What's it been like for you to cover a young Fernando Mendoza?
Honestly, JT, I've been lucky enough because I broadcasted his games when he was at Cal. So we're talking about 3 seasons ago, this young redshirt freshman quarterback that I'm getting a chance to meet for the first time, JT. And he's talking the same way that he's talking during the media sessions now. He was this same guy when I met him 3.5, 4 years ago. And I didn't believe that it was true. I had to ask my high school teammate who was on the coaching staff at Cal, and I asked him, I said, is this real? Like, this cannot be real. This young player who's still in college, who's barely scratching the surface of starting at quarterback at Cal, is this real? Is this fake? He says, no, Kurt, this is Fernando Mendoza every single day. And that's why his teammates love him. He is never going to give them some whatever answer to get them away. He is going to give a detailed answer to everybody. I will always remember, Fernando wants to know the why. He wants to know the why we're blocking it this way, why we're doing this way, so that he can execute and make sure that he's doing the right thing so that everybody can get involved. I'm just happy that we all get a chance to see it now, and he plays for our team. Our team. And we're talking about a guy who's going to give everything that he's got, and I can't say it enough, JT. I want Fernando to have so much success in this league. But if he doesn't have the success, it won't be because he doesn't work hard. It won't be because he was a bad guy. It won't be because he didn't put the time in. It won't be for all the other things, right? He has shown you so far what football means to him, and I think that's something the Raiders need, at stability at quarterback, because that's just what they haven't had, obviously since Derek Carr, has moved on. And, we just hadn't had that position for many, many years.
All right, I'll see you when I wrap it up here in a half hour. Looking forward to getting together with you. Appreciate you so much.
Sounds good, JT. See you in a bit.
You got it. Kirk Morrison. Wow, to have Matt Millen and Kirk Morrison back-to-back, fantastic. Right here on Raider Nation Radio as we're live in Houston at the Raiders team hotel ahead of the game on Thursday night, the nationally televised game. On ESPN and also Compass Media will carry the game, and Kirk Morrison will do a great job on the call, as he always does. 702-365-9200 if you want to get in. And I'm excited because, look, I've been honest here. A lot of people that listen to this show play fantasy football. A lot of people do. And we have a guest coming up here, and he's excited to come on, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. And there's a big event going on at Circa here over the weekend, which I'm excited about. I think I'm going to be able to pop over and attend when we get back here. So when you think of building a fantasy football team, you have to have people that know what they're doing. I've seen throughout the decades that a lot of my buddies who play fantasy football, I don't play fantasy sports because I'm too into my teams. Like if I'm playing fantasy baseball, I'd have to pick Yankees. I couldn't pick anybody. I'm not going to pick a Red Sox. But in fantasy football, you're going to have to pick players on some of your rival teams that you just don't like because they're going to help you win. And I like that about the fact that fantasy football fans are some of the most knowledgeable callers that I've talked to throughout my career. They're just sharp because they do a lot of different homework that I don't look at. I don't look at backup tight ends on other teams to see what they'd be like if I flex in them or if I played them a certain way. So that's why Ritchie is here for the National Fantasy Football Draft that is kicking off here in Vegas, and it is truly a big event, and it is buttoned up big. And Ian's kind enough to join us. Ian, thanks for doing this, and appreciate you coming on. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing great, and I'm honored to be on your show. This is what, I believe, your 30th year, and so I really appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you very much and your whole team, because this is really buttoned up. When you're doing an event this big with fantasy football and people coming in from all over the country, and it's Circa, and they want to be activated, they want to be entertained on top of the draft. What is this all about with the knowledge that you want to give and serve, and obviously making so many great relationships along the way?
Yeah, well, it's great. We've always had this dream, and we've been running fantasy drafts, the Fantasy Football World Championships, here in Las Vegas for about 20 years. And, we hooked up with Circa a handful of years ago, and the relationship has just taken off as far as fantasy football in the city goes. And it's been a lot of fun working with them and creating events there and holding live drafts. Like you said, people flying from all around the country. And, we came up with this idea because everybody loves fantasy and everybody loves to play. We see all these national holidays happening. And so we applied for August 21st to be a national holiday, to be National Fantasy Football Draft Day. And it got approved. And so, we said, you know what? It got approved. We're going to have a massive party. Invite everybody in the industry, invite former players and some celebrities, but pretty much every fantasy analyst and sports media company to come out and celebrate what we all love to do this time of year, which is play fantasy football. So we have a ribbon-cutting ceremony going on at Stadium Swim at 6:30 to read a proclamation to announce it Fantasy Football Draft Day. And then we have a big party from 6 to 11 with an open bar and all the fantasy analysts and players accessible to talk to and meet and network with and really just everybody kind of have a great time and celebrate fantasy football before the season starts.
What has evolved in your career with this in regards to those who are building a fantasy lineup and want to win and make money and don't treat this as a joke? They're in this to win it. With preparation, I got buddies who prep for 2 weeks before their fantasy draft. I got guys who prep year-round. What have you seen as some of the evolution here as people prep so they can go in and try to win?
Well, AI has made a lot of data and a lot of statistics very accessible and displayed in a lot of ways. And, that's not always the best thing. A lot of our players in high school, they prepare year-round. They keep notes from the previous year that they pull out before the next year to remind themselves of certain things. They mock draft all the time. But, man, I always tell everybody one thing. In every league of 12, there's 11 losers, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you decide you want to get your information from the same place that everybody else is getting their information from, you're probably going to be one of those 11 guys, right? So find somewhere that you trust, find rankings you trust, and draft around consistency. And I'll just tell you that to me, watching all the high-stakes drafts is the biggest key. You'd rather have players that score 15 points a week than score 0-30, 0-30. You want to win your head-to-head games. I just tell you consistency is the most important thing in drafting that I've seen, and I see a lot of guys win because of the players they draft are consistent as opposed to kind of best ball-type players, which are all-or-nothing kind of players.
Ian Ritchie, kind enough to join us. This is fantastic. So give me a couple of players that you look at. I'm with the Raiders, and you have Ashton Genty. We don't know when Mendoza is going to play. But when you go around the league, you see an aging Aaron Rodgers. You see Kyler Murray, who switches teams and might be running the ball more outside the pocket than ever as he's trying to save his career overall. And then Josh Allen in Buffalo and Matthew Stafford in L.A. coming off the MVP. So if you have a first or second round pick, I know a lot of people want to go quarterback, but they want to go running back first, depending on what league they're in. Talk to our listeners about that and how important that top first or second pick is, even though you're preaching consistency.
The top couple picks are really important to miss the landmines. You don't always have to go for the biggest upside. Just avoid the landmine, because the landmine will bury your team, right? So, in that first round, anybody that you feel is a risk to bust, just avoid them. In those first two rounds, do not take a quarterback. Don't do it. There's so much depth at quarterback. And, I'm watching guys like, and I can talk about the Raiders here in a second, but I watch guys like Dak Prescott go in the 10th round of our drafts, 11th round, and he has 2 receivers going in the top 2 rounds. So something's amiss there, right? Matthew Stafford went in the 14th round last year, 12th round, 13th round. But again, last year had 2 receivers in Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua that were going really early. So sometimes there's correlation like that you can see, and there's a disconnect that you can take advantage of. And I'll also say one other thing. For the last 3 years, there's a quarterback who has been ranked outside of the consensus top 16 rounds that has finished in the top 5 the last 3 years in a row. Normally, they're running-style quarterbacks, guys that can get those points with the rushing yards. And this year, we have Drake May ranked really high, but we have our eye on guys like Jackson Dart and Malik Willis to potentially fill that role of those later-round guys where you can get quarterback and feel pretty good about it. But there's a lot of value later at quarterback. I would wait for sure.
Ian Rich, as we wrap it up, Raider Nation, the Draft Nation is rolling deep in Vegas. This event is at Circa. This event at Circa, and before I tell you this, and this is one of the best promotions I've seen in the world that you're in. It's coming up here Saturday at 5 p.m. Free for all Raider fans. 2-hour open bar at Circa. So I was talking to Mark Jones, who you know from the Black Hole, and he's like, no, this is legit because I only put legit people on the radio. We're the flagship of the Raiders. So you got an open bar for Raider fans at Circa. Now, Circa's a 21 and older casino, which is great. And you're going to accommodate not only fantasy football fans from all over the country, but this is going to be a really heavy Raider presence. How did you come up with this concept, pulling this off? Because I know a lot of Raider fans who are coming in hot.
You know what? We've always looked at Las Vegas as the home for fantasy football. Honestly, it's such a natural. And so as we do more and more events here and we're able to do bigger things with bigger sponsors, we really want to embrace the local community. And the local communities are the Raider fans in a big part. And so for us to reach out to the Black Hole and have them embrace our event as well, I mean, like you said, we have Stadium Swim on Friday night from 6 to 11. We've actually increased it to a 3-hour open bar. So, it's going to be a lot of fun that night. On Saturday night, we know we have a lot of Black Hole folks coming as well. But, it really inspired us to go after this community and the Las Vegas community as a whole because of the national holiday and the community feel of Las Vegas being the home of National Fantasy Football Draft Day. So we have the Chamber of Commerce coming. There's some representatives from the LVCVA coming. The mayor's office has a proclamation that's going to be read when we do the ribbon cutting. So we've really tried to include a lot of local officials and local fans, along with, like you said, all these people flying in from around the country. And I'll tell you, man, it's a lot of fun. If people want to get involved, if they feel like drafting this year, go to circadraftseries.com. That's where a bunch of drafts are listed. If you want to come out this weekend, draftnation2026.com. You can reply to the Black Hole on their social media and get on their list. But show up, have a great time, and we're really looking forward to hosting a lot of people.
Well, I appreciate setting us up here. When I looked at this, I said, wow, this is pretty big. The connection with our broadcast partners here at Lotus Broadcasting and Circa and what the rest of our company does. I'm in Houston with the Raiders. I'm coming back on Friday, and I'll definitely slide by on Saturday. Ian, thanks a lot for doing this. I'm happy we can make this work, and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you with the Raiders game. Take care. Thank you.
You got it. Appreciate it there. Ian Ritchie. And they're putting together something really cool here. So if you're a Raider fan, and I ran this by Mark Jones, and Mark Jones said, absolutely, we're coming in full force, where fantasy football becomes a Vegas weekend via Draft Nation. Go check out what they're doing at Circa coming up this weekend. My former colleague, Michelle Beadle, will be there. Adrian Peterson, former NFL star from the Seahawks, Earl Thomas, Jeff Garcia, former quarterback, Austin Eckler, who's in town. A lot of big names are coming to this. Dean Cain, the actor who played Superman. Remember him? So I'm looking at the guest list here, and everybody who's coming, they put me on the list. I greatly appreciate that. So if you're looking for something to do, you're a football fan, head on out to Circa. I'll be there on Saturday. Got a busy week. I mean, this is going to be a busy weekend. We're wheels up after the Houston game. So I think we land back in Vegas 1:30, 2 in the morning. Then Friday, have the show from noon to 2. Got an event Friday night. This event is Saturday night at Circa, and it's open bar for 3 hours, Raider Nation. That fits you really good. And then next week, it's Alumni Week, which is going to be fantastic. And I want to get this in. A private event, and most of the events are open to the public, but the Raiders are going to be partnering with 8 Cigar Lounge, our proud partner here. I'm so excited that 8 is back with us overall. What an elegant cigar bar inside Resorts World. I go there often. It's the home of Max Crosby. Mark Davis is there often. We have this unbelievable connection with Remy Martin, which we love. So all of that coming together for Alumni Week is over 300 alumni will be in Vegas for that. So that's going to be important because Matt Millen, Bill Romanowski, Fred Bolitnikoff, Mike Haynes, Marcus Allen, Tim Brown, all the Raider Nation is coming in for Alumni Weekend. When we come back, we will wrap up the show, and I want to thank Finley Volvo Cars of Las Vegas. Mike and his team do an amazing job. Thank you, Mike, for getting me out to Houston. And everybody should be going out to Finley Volvo Cars Las Vegas right off the 215 and Rainbow and test drive a vehicle. You'll thank me for it, especially their hybrids. They're gorgeous. Test drive a Finley Volvo car. A lease or buy one straight up. They're fantastic vehicles and proud partners of our show.
Wake up with the morning tailgate.
Look, we ended the day with a turnover, which is we got to put points on the board before half. So as far as that goes, that's a disappointment. But he knows that. He's a veteran, and we'll go learn from it as a team.
That's Clint Kubiak. Thanks to the Raiders for getting me set up today, especially Vinny Bonsignor. Vinny brought his equipment over here for me today, and it was perfection. Thanks to Vinny for coming on over here, and we appreciate him. Q's coming up next. He's got a great show as he's been here all week. Got here Sunday, and his show is coming up next, and then tomorrow's the game, and we'll be back on Friday. Thanks to Matt Millen, Kirk Morrison, all of our guests today, Ian Ritchie from the Fantasy Football Draft Network. He was fantastic, and everybody else. I have a new short podcast with Levi Edwards that I put out before the show. You can find that on my X at JT the Brick or on our YouTube page as Levi sat down with me for about 10 or 15 minutes and we went over the joint practice yesterday. I thought that was pretty good. So Levi Edwards there, maybe we'll play a little bit of that, or you'll find that here on other media platforms. Let's get out to Robert in Portland. Robert, thanks for being patient. Go ahead.
JT, great interview with Millen. You got to later in the day ask him about his mouthpiece and what Hendricks said about it when he started calling the defensive sets. Hendricks couldn't understand him. He took his mouthpiece and threw it across the football field. Millen's got the greatest stories, and you're right. Phenomenal color guy. But I got to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Do you think Mendoza, he's a great student of the game? He lost 63, I think 17 to the Ducks and Otts, and 2 years later they beat the Ducks and Otts, and I watched it. He played a phenomenal game, and then they killed him last year before they went on to the championship. Mendoza is the real deal. That's what you're trying to say, and I'm so glad you're emphasizing that because that's what we need. We need a leader. Millen said Upshaw was the leader when he was a rookie, playing for Flores. Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. You got to have a leader, and this kid's going to be a leader.
Yeah, no doubt he is. Thanks for the call, Robert. Always good to hear from you. Mendoza's got, as Kirk Morrison said perfectly, no matter what happens to Fernando Mendoza, everything he's doing, I appreciate your call, is done to be great. And a lot of guys, Jayden Daniels can say that, right? But you just saw him make a really dumb mistake as a young player as he's offended by LSU giving up his number, right? He wants his number retired. His mom and him have handled that brutally. Fernando Mendoza would never do that. Fernando Mendoza is the closest thing that I've seen to Peyton Manning and a lot of Tom Brady. But remember, Peyton Manning was a high pick, right? Peyton Manning was a top overall pick. So is Fernando. Tom Brady went in the 6th round. He went in the 6th round. So Tom Brady didn't have what Fernando Mendoza had coming in with a national championship and a Heisman Trophy. So when you look at Fernando, you can only put him in a group of people. And I put him there with Jim Plunkett. Because if you look at Jim Plunkett winning the Heisman Trophy, being the Rose Bowl MVP, being the Rookie of the Year, was very impressive. And, Jim Plunkett was in the lobby when Fernando Mendoza walked into Raiders headquarters for a reason. They think that's a great connection. And if we're sitting here 30 years from now or 20 years from now or 10 years from now, and Fernando Mendoza has 2 Super Bowl championships like Jim Plunkett, I think we'd all be good with that. But that's going to be hard to do because we're still living in an era of Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, who's going to play for a long time. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks in this league. Trevor Lawrence wants to win a championship. But Fernando is just different. He's got the moxie. He's super sharp, and he's humble. And a lot of quarterbacks come out of high school and they go to college, and they are very cocky. They have to be. You have to survive. You have to be great in high school or be known to get on a college campus. I mean, Baker Mayfield's story is incredible on how Baker Mayfield was able to, transfer and move on and get to Oklahoma. That was not easy. He basically showed up at Oklahoma, and Bob Stoops didn't even know he was there. Next thing you know, he's there winning a Heisman Trophy, and he becomes the number 1 pick overall. Fernando Mendoza going from Cal to Indiana to win a national championship for Indiana in the same conference of Ohio State and Michigan? I mean, incredible. You would think that if he was going to Indiana, it's like going to Purdue. There's been a lot of good players. Drew Brees went to Purdue. Aiden O'Connell. They weren't going to win a national championship at Purdue. And they weren't supposed to win one at Indiana until Kirk Cignetti came. And Fernando Mendoza, and they had that great chemistry together. And that's the chemistry that I hope we see when Clint Kubiak gets Fernando to come in and play full time. When I saw Kirk Cousins yesterday after practice, he spoke before Fernando. Kirk Cousins looks fit and healthy, and he's got an edge to him now. Okay, he got into it with Max Crosby. That wasn't fake. That was real. And yesterday, he was kind of pissed off that the Houston Texans were banging into his elbow because he knows if he strains his elbow, that's it. Fernando Mendoza is going to take over, and he's going to be the quarterback forever for the Raiders. Kirk Cousins wants to start and win. He's the ultimate competitor. He's played in a lot of huge regular season games. John Gruden just recently did a breakdown on the Raiders, which was exceptional. And he talked about Kirk Cousins' years in Minnesota and all of those 4,000-yard years. Well, I don't think he's going to have a 4,000-yard year with the Raiders because he's older. He's not in his absolute prime. He didn't do that in Atlanta. But Kirk Cousins can come out and win the first 2 out of 3 games or win the first 3 out of 5 games. I was having a beverage last night with a couple of people who work with the Raiders, and we went through the schedule over dinner. And we were going game by game just for fun. And Miami's a win, and New Orleans is a win. I go, wait a second. What about the Chargers? Why wouldn't the Chargers be a win? Because the Raiders have proven that they struggle beating the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. I said, I get that. But we get the Chargers for their home opener, and the Chargers are going to come to their home opener and be drowned out by Raider fans. How embarrassing is that? Now, look, we've had some bad moments at Allegiant Stadium where there's been too many fans of the other team. Pittsburgh, Kansas City, the Niners. I get that. I understand that, and that's got to change. But how do you think the Chargers feel with their home opener that's going to be dominated by Raider Nation? The Raiders have to find a way to be in that game in the fourth quarter in Los Angeles. They have to be in that game. That's got to be a 17-14 game, 21-20. With under 6 minutes to go, with the Raiders having an opportunity to make a play and win that game. And if everything else works at that level, maybe the Raiders can steal 3 or 4 games. I think the Raiders should win 5 or 6 games on their schedule where I think they're going to win. Well, there's going to be 3 or 4 games that maybe you don't think they're going to win, and they can find a way to win them because they're in the game late. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm trying to be optimistic here in August. Thanks again to the Raiders, this entire staff that got me here today. Vinny Bonsignor, again, if you miss any portion of the show, you can find it. It's really good, lvsportsnetwork.com. Check out all my social media from Houston here as we continue on Instagram at JTTheBrickLV and our YouTube page, which is hitting a milestone for us as we're getting to a certain amount of subs that we wanted. And just doing a little 2-hour show here every day on YouTube, one brick layer at a time. Q's coming up next. Always listen to his show, Thanks to Connor, who ran the show and did a tremendous job today. We had a lot of moving parts, a lot of people he had to call in, get lined up here, on top of getting me lined up here from the Raiders Team Hotel. I'll see you back on the radio Friday in Vegas, and make sure you listen to Compass Media Networks and Raider Nation Radio for the game coming up here Thursday night. I don't know what to expect. I don't think Houston's going to play a lot of their starters. I think Fernando's going to play, hopefully, a bunch. Let's see more of Fernando and make sure they block for him. And hopefully the Raiders can play better on defense. That would be great to see. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. I'll see you Friday back here on Raider Nation Radio, noon to 2 Pacific time. Have a great rest of your day.